Good evening and welcome here to Prog Monster. This is a show that is dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. My name is Murph. I'm the host of this show. So we're back at the Battle of the Bands. This will be day number 21. Got two real heavy bands here. And this is the kind of these are the kind of bands that make you realize that sometimes hard rock is actually heavier than heavy metal. Because to me, heavy metal is a certain sound. There's a certain kind of metallic sound that comes with heavy metal that doesn't come with hard rock. But these albums are as heavy as any heavy metal band. They're really heavy. And both bands very strong in this competition. I believe both came up in this particular battle as well. So the two bands are Budgie and the album Night Flight from 1981, and they're facing Frank Marino's Power of Rock and Roll from Mahogany with Mahogany Rush. So this is a strong album as well. This album, you know, if we were just going on guitar parts, like guitar solos and stuff like this album would win the tournament hands down. I think this guy's easily the best guitar player in this tournament. There's a couple of other guys that are pretty good, but he is just off the charts. I never realized how good he was until I started this tournament. I'd heard him before, but I wasn't really paying attention. It was on the radio so much, but and of course he's Canadian, so I know that, but his guitar abilities are phenomenal. Like, he's right up there with among the best kind of rock guitarists out there. Couple tracks on this album too that are just mind-blowing. But anyways, I kind of had an idea of how this might go, but like some of the other battles I've had, it's not gone the way I thought. First of all, when we'll start with the Budgie album. First of all, when the Budgie album came up for this battle tonight, I was thinking, yeah, I really didn't warm up to it too much the last time. It won, but I didn't really warm to it too much. And I know a lot of it has to do with Bert Shelley's voice. You would think a guy who likes Geddy Lee wouldn't have a problem with this guy, but I did. But I warmed up to his voice a bit. And but the music is great. Like, these two albums are not the same at all. This is heavy methodical rock with lots of riffing, some good guitar solos, well written catchy beats, very heavy rhythm section. So definitely for the time period, a really heavy album. And I know they did lots of stuff before this that was heavy as well. So my favorite track on either album is on this particular album. It's Keeping a Rendezvous. I love this song. It's just fantastic. Really heavy ripping guitar and opening. It's a catchy riff. It just has that hook that catches me right away. And then the guitar solo is really heavy, and the overall track is just very heavy. Really, such a good track. Two of the other songs on the front half, Reaper of Glory and She Used Me Up. I like both these tracks a lot too. Pretty much for the same reasoning, at least with the Reaper of Glory. But I just liked Keeping a Rendezvous just a bit better than both tracks. She Used Me Up, which is another methodical riff. Great solo with some heavy drum catching here. So, yeah, just those three tracks alone are just fantastic. Rest of the album is kind of mediocre and not totally memorable. Not bad, though. Like, there's only one or two tracks I didn't really care for. Apparatus, I didn't really care for that too much. And the last track, Untitled Lullaby, which is basically an instrumental. Sorry, I'm just going to move this up a little bit so you can it's an instrumental that is very atmospheric. Starts with this wind and atmospheric feeling, and then there's some acoustic guitar, and it goes back to that at the end. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of like a closing, like the storm is ending, And that's what I'm getting from this, is that they played some real heavy stuff, and they're just telling you at the end that the storm is ending and calm will return. That was my feeling for it. Very good album, and it came up quite a bit in this tournament for me on this play. I think I've gotten past the kind of vocal style of Bert Shelley. Not dissimilar to how I got past Geddy Lee's voice initially. But with Geddy Lee, it went much quicker. I think after a couple tracks, I kind of got his range, and I thought I kind of liked his voice after that. Then we get to Frank Marino's and the Mahogany Rush Power of Rock and Roll album. This is your classic kind of really heavy, super heavy guitar soloing, like just a real rocking album, and has that 80s sound, but doesn't necessarily sound dated. I think his guitar soloing is fantastic, though, and he's at it constantly, like throughout the whole album, from start to finish. He's crashing through with these amazing guitar riffs and amazing guitar solos with like just non-stop guitar soloing. There's a couple tracks on here. Crazy Miss Daisy. So just such a raw guitar riff here, and some blazing, just absolutely blazing guitar solo here, and it's very reminiscent of SRV for me. I don't hear Stevie Ray Vaughan, but I hear that style in there, and he's just so good on this. I never thought he was this good of a guitar player, but clearly he is. There's a couple tracks at the end of the album that aren't among my favorites. The one track I liked. It's got a really catchy solo and a really catchy raw kind of sound to it, this whole particular song. You also get this kind of, these last two tracks kind of have that vocal range that if you're not listening really intently, you hear Kim Mitchell. I hear Kim Mitchell here. He's got that same kind of vocal range here on these two particular tracks. It's a little bit hints of it throughout the rest of the album, but really stronger on the last couple of tracks. The overall album is a real heavy rocking party type sounding album with some bluesy numbers to it, some bluesy effects to it, but the guitar soloing is dominating, just absolutely dominates the album. I think this album also is a little clearer in its sound, production maybe a little bit better as well. Definitely they put the guitar front and center here. His vocals aren't bad, but the guitar is the main thing on this particular track. There's like 3 or 4 tracks in the middle: Running Wild, Crazy Miss Daisy, Go Strange, Young Man. I liked all these tracks quite a bit. Overall, this album is probably a stronger album than the Budgie album. The Budgie album just has that one track I really like a lot. But when it comes down to it, I think they were pretty even. I thought Frank Marino would blow him away here, but they're pretty even. The Budgie album came up quite a bit. But then I have to think about, how's this going to go forward then? Will the Budgie album get stronger? Or will the Frank Marino album continue to show me new things that I didn't know about him? Hard to say. I really don't know. Both albums did much better on this round than they did in the first round. Although the Marino album did good in the first round, but it's done better even here. The Budgie album really came up, I think. Yeah, it's a tough challenge. I'm still kind of debating it right now. Like, I thought after I listened to the Budgie album, I thought, oh, okay, so this is the better album. And then I remembered how good the Marino album was. And I'm not really sure what I want to do here. I think I have to go with Marino. And I think the reason being is that there's no bad tracks on this album. They're all good tracks. There's no super fantastic or standout track, but there's a lot of good, solid tracks on here. Where the Budgie has its standout track and some really good stuff on it, but there's a couple of tracks, that Apparatus and the last Untitled Lullaby, which is okay for what the way they did it was good, but they're just weaker tracks, and there's nothing weak on the Marino album. So I think Marino has a better chance of going further, and I think he's just a hair better here. I got to give it to him. But it was tough. It's a tough decision because I really want to hear more of this Budgie album. But, you know, when you do this, you don't have time to listen to the ones that are going further on. So you have to go with the Marino. So the Marino album, I think, has to go through here. The guy is just simply an outstanding guitar player. So, you know, you really want to give that. If he's going to get beat, that's the way I look at it. If he's going to get beat, the band that's beating him has to beat him pretty good, and that's the way I feel about it right now. I'm going to change my mind, but so I'm going to give it to Frank Marino, and Budgie has got through one round, but not good enough to go on to the third round. So Marino goes through, Budgie's out. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like. Which one do you prefer? Do you think this is a good analogy of these two, or maybe I'm a little bit harsh on Budgie? I don't know. Just my own personal feelings. I don't hold anything against either band or favor one or the other. It's just personal. I like the Budgie riffing a little better. I did. Okay, so and if you want, you can subscribe. That would be much appreciated as well. And this will come out tomorrow morning on the 21st. And if I'm not mistaken, that's either the last day of winter or the first day of spring. I never can quite remember. I'd have to go look it up. Anyways, I hope you have a good evening, and this will come out in the morning and you get to see it then. So take care, and thanks for showing up.